I never thought our HOA Karen would steal a veteran's oxygen machine right off his porch. My life in Willow Creek Estates was supposed to be quiet and uneventful after the move. Gary was my next-door neighbor with serious lung issues. He depended daily on his portable oxygen concentrator just to breathe comfortably. The machine sat on his front porch humming softly during warm afternoons. Karen ran the HOA like her personal kingdom for the last 8 years. She lived for every petty rule and loved sending violation notices. Her first complaint letter arrived about Gary's unsightly medical equipment. I watched the situation unfold with a growing sense of disbelief. Gary politely explained his health needs in a detailed response email. Karen ignored every word and doubled down with higher fines instead. The air felt heavier every time her enforcement guy drove by the house. One sunny morning, the tension finally exploded into something ugly. Karen marched up Gary's driveway with determination in her stiff posture. She pointed at the oxygen concentrator with disgust twisting her face. "This clutter violates our visual standards policy and must be removed now." Gary stood up slowly, his breathing already becoming labored and shallow. "This is my medical device, Karen. I need it to stay alive." Her laugh was cold and completely devoid of any real empathy. She signaled the man behind her to grab the equipment immediately. I stepped out my front door because I couldn't stay silent anymore. The fresh-cut grass scent mixed with the rising anger in my chest. I pulled out my phone and started recording the entire confrontation calmly. Karen turned her sharp glare toward me with pure irritation flashing. "This is none of your concern, so stay out of HOA business." Her voice dripped with that superior tone she used on everyone. The helper picked up Gary's lifeline and started carrying it away. Gary gasped, reaching desperately toward the machine with trembling hands. "Officers, this woman is taking a disabled veteran's essential medical device." I spoke clearly to the police she had conveniently called earlier. The 2 cops arrived looking awkward about the bizarre domestic dispute. Karen spun an elaborate tale about abandoned property and rule breaking. Gary sat down heavily on his porch steps, struggling noticeably for air. I showed the officers my video evidence without raising my voice once. Witnesses from neighboring houses began stepping outside to see the chaos. Mrs. Thompson across the street shook her head in visible disapproval. "That machine keeps Gary alive, Karen. How can you be so heartless?" Another neighbor, Mike, a fellow veteran, walked over with clenched fists. "This is completely insane. You don't steal from a service member like this." The police eventually made them return the concentrator temporarily that day. Karen stormed off, muttering threats about future consequences for all of us. That night, sleep evaded me as the injustice boiled inside my mind. I spent hours organizing videos, photos, and every nasty email from her. Gary visited the next day looking pale but incredibly thankful. "Your quick thinking saved me today. I don't know what I would have done." We discussed her history of targeting vulnerable residents in the community. I chose strategy over rage and researched every relevant law carefully. ADA rules and fair housing protections seemed especially applicable here. Karen had clearly overstepped and skipped mandatory procedural steps too. My detailed complaint packet went to the full HOA board by email. The subject line read concerns about the president's abusive enforcement tactics. An emergency board meeting was scheduled for the following Thursday evening. The community hall buzzed with nervous energy when residents filled the seats. Karen sat confidently at the front table, adjusting her power blazer. I presented facts methodically, playing the incriminating video clips slowly. The room gasped collectively, watching Gary's desperate struggle on screen. One by one, witnesses stood sharing their own experiences with Karen's tyranny. Mrs. Thompson described ridiculous fines over innocent holiday decorations. Mike recounted how she harassed his own disabled family member last year. The atmosphere thickened with collective frustration toward her leadership style. Karen's smug expression cracked as the testimonies continued piling up. She attempted to interrupt with her usual condescending explanations. "These rules protect our property values from declining," she protested weakly. I countered smoothly, pointing out rules shouldn't endanger human lives. Board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, exchanging worried glances. When asked for proper documentation, Karen fumbled through disorganized papers. Her face flushed red as she realized the procedural gaps were obvious. It emerged she had personally benefited from some questionable fine collections. A quiet resident produced old records showing her pattern of overreach. The room's mood shifted dramatically toward open calls for accountability. Karen began sweating under the lights, her voice turning shrill and defensive. Security escorted her out after the vote to suspend her immediately. The applause that followed felt like sweet justice washing over the crowd. Gary received his equipment back along with waived fines and an apology. The neighborhood breathed easier in the weeks following that dramatic meeting. People waved more warmly during evening walks and mailbox conversations. Karen resigned quietly a month later, claiming personal family reasons. Everyone knew the real story behind her sudden departure, though. I sat on my porch later, watching Gary relax with his machine humming. The warm breeze carried a sense of restored peace through the suburb. Turns out even the tiniest tyrants eventually run out of oxygen themselves.